Hey, it's Heidi. Welcome back for another video. I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in for this video. Is entitled How to Love an Addict. I don't think there's anything more frustrating, more concerning, more debilitating, more harder, not more harder, but harder than actually loving an addict or an alcoholic. It literally has you, makes all common sense go out the window, makes you kind of, a lot of the things that we think we're doing that are loving aren't, right? And we really are killing ourselves trying to figure out how to be in relationships. So most of us just end up we get to that certain point where we try and try and try, and then we end up just totally giving up and throwing our hands up and actually just totally detaching, period, which is really the last thing that I know many of you watching this video want to do. You love your addicted loved one. Whether it's your daughter, your son, your wife, your husband, your dad, your mom, you want the absolute best for them, but it's maddening to try to be in a relationship with them because you get hopeful and you get hurt. You get hopeful and then you get backstabbed from your opinion, from your experience, or you get hopeful and you get just disappointed. And so I really want to help you today navigate your relationship with your addicted loved one so that you can learn how to be in a relationship so it's not so destructive. So you know me, you know I love acronyms, and so the acronym that we have today is DECIDE. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the different letters of DECIDE with teaching points on each one. Now the first point that I'm going to give you, a lot of you probably have heard before. It's a fancy thing to say when people say, "Well, honey, you just need to detach and detach with love." What the hell does that mean? Because I know, if I know you don't want to detach. It's the last thing on your mind. You have an instinctive drive to protect, nurture, care for, protect, rescue your loved one. It's like asking a mother whose child is trapped under a car, "Well, honey, just stand back and just try not to get too involved." I mean, come on. How ridiculous is that, right? You are involved. You do care and you do love. So I'm not going to ask you to detach from your loved one because that's crazy. Addiction is a disease of detachment. It's an attachment problem, right? We're not bonding to each other, so we bond to substances instead. So what I want to do, I am going to write detach. That actually is the first letter. But not from your loved one. What I want you to detach from is something that's really keeping you stuck, which is expectations. The first time my dad went into treatment, I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I'm going to have the dad I always wanted. My life is going to be perfect. Everything is going to be fixed and solved. He's going to go in and they're going to fix him. And we're going to live happily ever after." And you know what happened? My dad relapsed 24 hours after he got out of treatment. And I thought, what went wrong? What didn't work? Well, that treatment didn't work. Well, there's so many factors that are involved in recovery that some people are like a little combination lock, right? The first time they go into treatment, all the numbers click and boy, they get it, right? And they open wide up and they're very successful. Other people, it's like every time in treatment, they get a different number on the lock and it could take several tries. When I do the family program, I ask who's their first time in treatment, their loved one, the hands go up, second, hands, third. Sometimes I get to 22 times. Now, when I do that, people are like, "Oh my God, heaven forbid." But every time in treatment is valuable, right? And nobody wants to experience treatment 22 times, but the reality is for some people, it was the 22nd time that it clicked. And that's the thing that really saved their life that time, is like all the stars aligned and they finally got it. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is step back away from thinking that people are just like a car, right? They're going to go in for a tune-up, you're going to replace the battery, you're going to fix some shit, and we're going to move on with our lives. This is a lifelong journey. Nobody's getting fixed, and it takes a long time for some people to actually get it. So to be able to detach from your expectations of how you think things are supposed to go. The other way is detaching from your expectations of how you think people are going to behave when they're sober. This is a huge one. One time, Dad was at the family program. He was like, "Yes, I cannot wait until my son gets off the weed because he's so lazy. And as soon as he has the weed out of his system, he's going to go to work and that's the only thing stopping him, and then he can start working and get a job." And I was like, "Are you sure that's the only thing stopping him?" Because I'll tell you what happened. The kid got off the weed and was lazy as hell. Still lazy. So I think sometimes we think drugs and alcohol are the problem and we expect them to be different people when they come out of treatment. But now they're angrier than before they went in. They're lying even more. They're sober, but they're kind of a jerk. I had one woman in the family program raised her hand. She goes, I had to tell you something. I kind of liked him better drunk. I was like, honey, I understand. So sometimes it was a joke, of course. She didn't like him better drunk, but the thing was is that when he sobered up, it wasn't what she thought it would be. So detach from your expectations of how you think people are supposed to behave in their recovery, how you think people are supposed to, what they're supposed to do in their recovery. There are also many, many paths to Rome. What's right for one person might not be right for the next. And so for you, dictating to your loved one how they're supposed to recover is maddening for you. If you can detach from your expectations of the righteousness. Now, you're righteous. I know that about you because you're the hero, right? You're the rescuer. You're watching this video. You like to save the day and you want to save the day, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the righteousness will kill you, because you can live in righteousness and you can go, it should be this way, and they should be doing this, and they should be doing that, and they should be going to meetings, and they should be detaching from all their friends, and they should be taking yoga, and they should be going to church, and you do all these things. But the reality is they ain't going to church. They don't like yoga, and they still got the same friends, and you're going nuts. So being able to detach from righteousness and trade righteousness for reality and just deal in the reality. Well, that is what is happening with them, and that is what it is. And so I can let go of some of how I think things are supposed to go and actually just let them unfold how they are. And that will be actually a game changer for you. Just that first one, if you can learn to detach from the expectations of things. Number 2, the reason that we have so many expectations is because we don't understand addiction. There's a lot of misinformation about addiction that's still being taught and perpetuated, like it's in your genes, or your dad's an alcoholic, so you're going to be an alcoholic, or you were born with an addicted personality. All of these things that are bullshit, not true. But then we go, well, what is true? Well, there's another video that I did on the easiest and best explanation of addiction ever, or something like that on YouTube. Watch it. It'll change your life. That explains addiction in a way that everybody can understand it. Now we all go, okay. You know what the biggest difference is when you get the education? You don't take addiction personally. When somebody is addicted and you go, how could you do this to me, right? Because it feels like they are doing it to you. You know, how could you put our family through this? Well, you're going to watch that video and you're going to learn that if they had access to their right mind, they wouldn't be doing it to you. Nobody's home right now. And so you really need to educate yourself so you understand the difference between something being done to you and something just being done, right? It affects you, and that leads me to C. Compassion. Compassion for yourself and compassion for the addict or the alcoholic. Hard to muster when you're so pissed. I get it. But here's the reality. Sometimes looking at an addict and saying, why can't you just stop, is like looking at a man in a wheelchair with no legs and going, why can't you walk, asshole? I know that sounds weird because you're like, well, they're not handicapped, and they're not. When they're addicted, their mental capacity, their neocortex is actually hijacked. Just like a man with no legs has no access to his legs, a person who's active in addiction has no access to thought, to changing on their own. That's why they need help. That's why they need to come into a place to detox, because the thinking part of the brain is not running the show. The reptilian part of the brain is running the show. So when you understand that, you have more compassion and you go, okay, this is an instinctual thing. This has nothing to do with me. Nobody's thinking here. So maybe I need to think for myself, and sometimes think for your loved one by making the decision to get them into treatment, because if they could decide to get into treatment on their own, a lot more people would come into treatment. Many people don't decide on their own. You say, well, they have to be ready. Nobody's ready for anything, okay? I'm not ready to do most things I do. I do them because I have self-discipline, and that self-discipline turns into payoff, and then I become ready because I like the results, right? It's a lot of people do a lot of things before they're ready to do them, right? Did you do stuff today, this morning, you didn't feel like doing, right? So, but active compassion. When you have compassion for your loved one, you're able to step back from the situation and realize that addiction kind of hijacks the brain like Alzheimer's does. You don't look at an Alzheimer patient and go, remember my name, you jerk. You don't do that. You go, oh, they have Alzheimer's. They don't have access to that section of their brain. That's how addiction works. They don't have access either until they start sobriety and recovery. Then they start to gain access back. In addiction, all bets are off. So compassion and understanding that nobody's home mentally will help. Also compassion for yourself. Yes, it's traumatic. I know parents and loved ones who have post-traumatic stress disorder from going through being with an addicted loved one. Where is your support? Because I'll tell you what, you can't go to the source of your pain for your healing when they're still sick. They're barely trying to keep their own head above water, and you're expecting them to make you feel better, and they just can't, right? So where are you going? Who do you turn to? Do you have a coach, a therapist, a group that supports you, that understands you, that loves you, that connects with you? Because I'm going to tell you right now, you need it. You need it. You need to have a place to go. Okay? I'd love to be that person, by the way. If I could be that person for you, let me know. That moves us to identity. In addiction, we're all just kind of actors. Can you read that okay? I guess you can. We're all just kind of actors playing a role in order to survive, and we adapt these roles, right? I'm going to do another video later on about the roles that we adapt to survive, but your identity is, who do you want to be in the ride that's addiction? Some of us, go on this ride and we're in the identity right now of treatment center. You're not a treatment center. You're not equipped to be a treatment center, but you're pretending to be one. Your identity is a treatment center. What do? You Google how to detox people. Maybe you even purchased like Suboxone underground, or went and got some Ativan from your girlfriend who takes it and we're like, I'm going to detox you. Let's just get some cool rags and we'll make it happen. Some of you have an identity of a sober coach. So all you do with your son or daughter is talk about thinking positive and what to do and let's go and let's move and let's get some goals, and you're playing that role and it's completely ineffective. Why? Not because you're not an awesome coach, but because you're too close to the situation. Some are you in the role of sponsor. You're like, call me when you want to get high. You're the last person somebody should call when they want to get high. There are people way more qualified to call than you. I love you, but it's true. You're the last person on the list somebody should call when they're wanting to use drugs. They should get their butt to a meeting. They should call their sponsor. They should call their people in their home group, right? You're not qualified, okay? And even if you are in the program, you're still not qualified because you're too close to the situation. Some of you are playing therapist. What happened in your childhood? What did I do? And you know what? You don't want to hear the answer because you're scared shitless you actually did do something. Guess what? You didn't. There's nothing you did to create this, but you're playing the therapist trying to dig in and see, was it the divorce? What happened, right? Stop driving yourself crazy. The identity that you play will give you the peace that you're looking for. So what identity are you really in? Mother, father, wife, husband. You detach from treatment center, halfway house, sponsor, life coach, addiction professional, and you move into mother. You move into those roles, and then you start doing just what you believe in. Like a lot of people are parenting the addiction, right? They have daughters and sons in recovery, and they're like, well, I just have to make sure I'm parenting them, and I'm doing everything I need to do, and I'm controlling the finances, and I'm manipulating the situation to make sure that they stay sober. Well, you're not being a parent. You're being a halfway house or a sponsor or a life coach because you're trying to control the outcome. You have no control over the outcome, so just what do you believe in? I help people figure out what it is they believe in, not what they think is going to keep people sober, because I say, okay, well, what are you doing? Well, we're paying his rent, but we have the checkbook, and we pay the rent, and we make sure we only pay for this food, and we do this and that. I say, okay, how old is your son? 46. Are you doing what you believe in for a 46-year-old son? As a parent, how do you parent a 46-year-old? The mom goes, oh, I don't. Well, what do you do instead? I offer encouragement, support, words of wisdom. Oh, wow. So if you could be in that role, would that feel better? Yes, it would, but it's maddening when they don't take my advice. Well, again, detach from your expectations of how you think somebody's supposed to respond to the advice you're giving them. Your job is done when you give the advice. What people do with it's on them. I know there's a lot vested in that, but you have to trust that they're on a journey. Their journey is for them. I don't know why they're on their journey. I'm sure my mother didn't want me to turn into a binge drinking alcoholic with an eating disorder. She would have wanted to prevent that, I'm sure. But the reality is, I'm so damn grateful I was, because now I get to stand and teach other people. I'm sure a lot of people feel sorry. Oh, I didn't want you to grow up in addiction or whatever. I'm so glad I did, because it gives me a different space of authority to be able to talk from. Right? That personal authority that, in addition to, yeah, look, I can point the wall at all the awards and stuff. That's nice, but it's my personal journey that has given me the most conviction, right? And your loved one's the same. Okay, let's move on to D. Once you've decided who you want to be, the D is declare boundaries. For some people, that is really the toughest thing to do, is declare the boundaries. Because number one, they're afraid to death what the boundaries should be. They don't know what the boundaries are. Number two, they're afraid to actually what the result when they pull the trigger, because you've got a toddler in your addiction that you're dealing with. Their brain is like a toddler, and they're flipping out and storming around and threatening you and acting cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So you think, well, if I pull the boundary, I can't let them go homeless. I can't put them and call the police. I can't, all of these things. And as a result, you end up driving yourself crazy, and you keep with a toddler. 1, 2, 2.5, except while you're counting, other children in your household are falling apart. While you're counting, your marriage is crumbling. While you're counting, your job is suffering. While you're counting, your spiritual relationship with God is sacrificed, because what you're doing is you're waiting for them to be smart about things, and what I'm telling you is nobody's home. So stop waiting for them to be smart. Instead, get them safe. Get them into a treatment center so that you can have some peace of mind. Hold the boundaries. All right? If you need help with this, I'm having a training coming up, a private training where I'm going to cap it off at a certain number of people. It's going to be live like this, but a private group where you can actually ask your boundaries questions live. I'll put the link in here so you can sign up for that. It's February, I think. I don't know. Don't quote me. I think it's the 3rd week in February, but sign up. We're going to do this one. We're going to tackle this one together, okay? Then the E is the last thing. Encourage help. If you're watching this video later on and you're like, it's February, I'm watching this video in July, what the hell is going on? That's because videos have a life of their own. But guess what? I always do boundary workshops. So if you go to lovecoachheidi.com, you'll see the next one. Just sign up for it, okay? So the last one is encourage help. What role you're most effective in is encourager, right? I believe in you. I know there's more for you. I know there's a bigger plan for your life. Let's encourage some help for you. If you have a way to support, so you're not the one detoxing them in the back bedroom. You're not the one taking all the responsibility on yourself. But if you have the resources and means, you're saying, let me provide some support for you. Let me help you get into some treatment. If I have the financial means, let me hire that coach for you, or let me direct you in the right, give you some resources. But then you detach from the outcome or the expectation of how they use those resources. And so this is just, encouraging help is always the way to go. You know, the last thing that an addict or an alcoholic wants to believe is that there's no hope. They already feel that way to begin with, right? So if you can manage to carry the torch, believe in hope, keep your hope, but again, work these other principles, I think that you'll be in great shape. These principles look, we've been a video together. This is going to be a 20-minute video. Do you think you're going to walk away from this video and go, oh my God, thank you, Heidi. My life is totally changed. No, come on, I'm not that delusional, and neither are you. But now that you know, you can look and you can go, where is my weakness? Where is my area of strength? What do I need to hone and focus in on? Let's get together. Shoot me an email. Go to lovecoachheidi.com. Let's continue the conversation. Tons of free resources, tons of videos, tons of other resources, programs, and mentorships that I can come alongside you and your family and help heal the whole family. My intention is to help you love, is to help you not just love the addict or the alcoholic, but what's the most loving thing you can do and how can you love yourself. And so please join me for more videos. Take excellent care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.